Perfect. So hi everyone. A lot of you won't have met us before. So it's great to see a couple of faces. I know it's hard to see everybody on Zoom, but today we're going to be going through a little bit of a whistle-stop tour because nutrition is such a big topic, but just a nice little introduction into nutrition and some of the stuff that me and Izzy do. Obviously, it's titled Thrive Through Winter, a simple guide to protein and portion. So we're going to be talking a little bit about protein, what protein is. It's a very hot topic in the media at the minute. I'm sure you guys see it all the time online, supermarket advertisement, things like that. Protein's very popular at the minute. So we'll go through a bit about why it's important. And then we'll also talk a little bit about portion sizing, how to make sure we're eating the right things and stuff like that, really. But just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Meg. You probably can't see my face because obviously you're looking at the slides, but this is what I look like on a good day. This was me on my graduation. So I don't look like this all the time. But I've been working within muscular dystrophy now for about 3.5 years. I started off in professional sport, so I used to work for British Swimming and Swim England, and I also used to swim professionally myself. But when I did my master's degree at Manchester Metropolitan University, I got the great opportunity to do some work with the Neuromuscular Centre up in Winsford. And I got introduced to the world of we call it clinical nutrition, but kind of what you guys do there at the MDSC, and I really loved being a part of it. And I thought, God, like how can I get more involved? And I was lucky enough that a PhD came up with my current supervisor now, and to work on improving nutritional guidance for people living with muscular dystrophy. So I'm really passionate about spreading the word about muscular dystrophy and about supporting people to live their best quality of life. I'm not here to find a cure. My role is very much in how we can support people to live their best version of themselves every day. And I've really enjoyed all my work so far, and I'm really excited to get to know some of you guys at the MDSC and also to pass on some of the knowledge that I have. And I'm sure you'll, reciprocate and pass on some knowledge to me as well.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Izzy. I'm sort of similar background to Meg in terms of research and stuff. So I started off doing a degree in sports science, and then I became more sort of interested in how nutrition can help us with our sort of health and well-being rather than just trying to improve performance in sport, because that can only sort of get people so far, I guess. But I became more interested in how nutrition and science can improve our health and well-being. I did my master's degree at Manchester Metropolitan University, which is where I came across my supervisor and the work that they were doing down at the Neuromuscular Centre. And my research is actually funded by MD UK, and I'm sort of looking specifically in the Becker muscular dystrophy area, looking at nutrition and sort of how protein can help us improve that quality of life here and now, rather than all this research going towards maybe potential cures or treatments. I'm very enthusiastic about trying to maintain quality of life now and trying to find as many things as possible that we can change and improve, just to keep us going for longer and keep us feeling stronger for longer.
Yeah. So a bit about what we're going to cover in today's session. Don't stress too much about writing things down because we'll share these slides at the end. And if you've got any questions you think of, feel free to write them down as you go. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of a short question and answer session. But this is something that we're hoping we can do more of. So if there's any topics you think about throughout this that you think you would love to hear more information on, please make a note of them, because it's really good for us guys to know kind of what you guys would like to know, because this is just really a starting point of just some key bits of information that can really help. So we're going to go through why is nutrition important. It's a word that gets thrown around quite a lot. So what is it? Why is it important? What does it mean to us? What is protein and why is that important? It's again a word that's getting thrown around a lot at the minute. It's very popular, so we're going to have a look about what that means to us. We're going to go through a little bit about winter nutrition and different things we might need to consider in the winter time when it comes to diet and food. We're going to talk a little bit about portion control and how we might need to alter how we eat or how we portion up food, when we've got muscular dystrophy, because me and Izzy are, that's where our research is really heavily centered. And then we're also going to go through some like just general winter cooking tips. It's something that quite a few of the people that we work with have found really useful, of different tips and tricks that that you guys might not know about, to help make sure that we're eating optimally every day. So nutrition, what is it? It's a word that's getting thrown around way too much at the minute. What's diet? What's nutrition? But essentially, nutrition is essential because it provides the body with the nutrients it needs to function optimally. Okay, so essentially, it's the food we put in our bodies to make ourselves perform the best we can. Okay, we can have bad nutrition, we can have good nutrition, but we really want to focus on that optimal nutrition. Okay. So why is it important? All right. Why do we think this is such a good topic and something that, a lot of people will find really useful? So nutrition is important for lots of different things on a day-to-day basis. It's important for our energy production, which we need to make sure that we can get up out of bed in the morning, that we can make ourselves a cup of tea, that we can talk to our friends, we can socialize. All these things require energy, okay? And the nutrients we get from our food are what provide us with energy, especially carbohydrates. You might hear a lot about them in the media at the minute. Don't eat bread, go off carbs, all those things. Please don't listen to that. Carbohydrates are really important fuel and are really essential in energy production, but also fats and proteins as well. And without this energy that we get from our diet, even if we were just to lie still all day, we would still need energy. So it's super important, okay, for that we get good nutrition in to support our energy production. Another one that's really important, and an area that me and Izzy are quite passionate about, is muscle and bone health. Okay, so protein, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, all these nutrients that we get from our diets are necessary for maintaining healthy muscle and bone. So our strength, our function, they can all be impacted by what we're putting in our bodies. Okay, and we want to make sure that our muscles and our bones are in the best position that they can be in to support our lives on a day-to-day basis. And nutrition's really going to help with that. Something else that kind of gets forgotten about in terms of nutrition is the impact that it can have on our mental health and our cognitive function. Okay, food's not meant to be there to make you miserable. A good diet, good nutrition isn't meant to make you miserable. If anything, it's actually meant to support your mental health. So there's nutrients such as certain vitamins and minerals, fatty acids, antioxidants, and these are essential for brain health. So they support our ability to regulate our mood. So helping us, stay happy when we're having a happy moment, okay, and things like that. They're really important for memory. So making sure that we, remember the good times and all those kind of things. For focus, when we're working, when we're concentrating, nutrients are really important to make sure that we can do that. And they're really important for overall brain health and brain function. So making sure that we're keeping those brains as healthy as we can. So there is a lot more to nutrition than just in it goes, produces energy, out it goes. Okay, there's a lot of things that it's useful for.
Yeah, and so I'm sure we get a lot of questions, and a lot of what our research goes into is the role of protein in muscular dystrophy and neuromuscular conditions. So protein is really important. It helps us to maintain and build our muscle, and we need it every day to help our body repair and renew itself. And when a neuromuscular condition, the body can need more protein than the average person. And this is to help to account for sort of the accelerated muscle loss that we do see in muscular disease, to help you maintain strength, supporting your independence and your daily functioning. As well, it can also help support your immune function and your recovery. So especially at this time of year, there's a lot of colds, coughs going around. So protein can really help strengthen that immune system and keep you as well as you can for longer. And it can also improve your response to exercise, and sometimes you can make you feel a bit stronger in your different physio and conditioning sessions as well. So there are different types of protein. So we've got complete protein sources that you can see at the top. These contain all the essential amino acids that the body needs. So think of these amino acids as sort of the builders and the materials in the protein that you consume, that the body uses to repair and maintain that muscle. These complete proteins contain all the amino acids that the body can't make itself. So they must come from food, and they're especially, again, important for that muscle repair repair and maintenance. So some examples of complete protein sources can be fish and seafood, so salmon, cod, prawns, things like that, eggs, meat, so chicken or pork, and then also some milk and dairy products, so yogurt, cheese, things like that. And then we have complementary protein sources. So these are foods that don't necessarily contain all the essential amino acids on their own, but when eaten together, they can provide everything the body needs to build and repair that muscle. So some examples of these can be some peanut butter on some whole grain toast, or porridge with oats, nuts, and seeds. It's also in a lot of soy products, so tofu, tempeh, soy milk, things like that. And each of these foods is missing some of those building blocks, but when eaten together, they provide all the amino acids that the body needs. And these foods don't need to be eaten in the same mouthful, just over the course of the day.
And if we look at how many calories are in 1 gram of protein, we have 4 calories per 1 gram of protein. So if we think of 1 calorie as like 1 unit of energy, for every gram of protein that we eat, we're getting 4 units of energy. So if we try and think of that in like snacks or food, if we're trying to get 50 grams of protein in, which is around 200 calories, we're looking at like 3 large eggs, or 170 grams of cooked chicken, or 200 grams of full fat cottage cheese. So why is protein important? So when we've got a muscle disease like muscular dystrophy, where muscle wastage is heightened and it does progress as the condition goes on, protein is really important to try and maintain muscle and maintain function. Okay, so if we're trying to maintain muscle, we can also try and maintain our muscle strength and our muscle function. Okay, so it is really important that we're consuming enough protein, more than the average person. But some research that me and Izzy have done in the past couple of years has shown that adults with muscular dystrophy are actually consuming 20% less protein than that's what recommended compared to people without muscular dystrophy. So not only do people with muscular dystrophy need more protein, but you're actually eating less. Okay, and we know that lower protein intakes can actually lead to weakened muscles, and it can worsen muscle loss. So that's why we know that people with MD need higher proteins. But from our research, it shows that they're not getting even adequate amounts what we would need in people without a muscle disease. We also found that people who ate more protein, so people with MD, and that's regardless of condition. So when we did this research, we looked at people with Becker muscular dystrophy, FSH, myotonic limb girdle, some myofibril myopathies, SMA. You know, we really had a large range of conditions. So this does really apply to everyone. That those people with MD who were consuming greater amounts of protein had better muscle strength. So they had stronger grip strength, they had stronger movements of their upper body. Okay. And they also had higher scores for functional ability and independence. And this was regardless of whether that person was ambulatory, in a power chair, using assistance to get around. It didn't matter what stage of muscular dystrophy they had or how much independence they had. If they were consuming more protein, they had better muscle strength and better functional capacity. Additionally, what we saw was that those people who were consuming more protein also were maintaining higher levels of lean muscle mass. Okay, so those people who were consuming more protein had more of those building blocks to maintain the muscle in their body. Okay, so this is kind of giving us the idea of why protein is so important. So what we're trying to say is that more protein is going to help people with MD keep your strength and function for longer, which is really, really important, and is going to really help positively contribute to all the hard work you do in the gym and in the physio down at the NMDSC and all the other centres that you guys attend. So how much protein and when should we eat it? Okay, so the current UK government recommendation for protein is 0.75 grams per kilo. So in simple terms, if you weighed 100 kilos, let's make the maths nice and simple because it's not my strong suit. If you weighed 100 kilos, you would need 75 grams of protein per day by current UK guidance. But we know from that research that I've just showed you that people with MD need more protein, and we think they need between 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilo per day. So again, if we use that 100 kilos as an example to make the maths nice and easy, someone who weighed 100 kilos would need between 120 to 150 grams of protein per day. Okay, if you're trying to incorporate that into your diet. We also looked at where people with MD prefer to eat their protein. And from the research we did, we looked at, what was it, 150 people with MD, which is quite a big group in MD research. It's very rare to get over about 25. So we did a good job recruiting all those people to get involved. And we saw that most people prefer to eat their protein at dinner time. But we know that spreading protein out across the day is really important to give our body consistent supplies of those building blocks to keep our muscles repaired and recovered. So breakfast and snacks seem to be an area in which people weren't really consuming much protein. And breakfast seems to be the biggest missed opportunity. I'm sure a lot of you eat things like cereal, toast, maybe miss breakfast completely. So this is probably why we're not getting in enough protein at breakfast. And another area was snacks. So if we have a quick look at how we might have a more protein-focused breakfast, these are some ideas that me and Izzy think are quite tasty. So things like a salmon and cottage cheese bagel, that's 27 grams of protein right there, you know, nice and quick to make. It's not too calorie dense, you know, but it's going to fill you up, keep you nice and full until lunchtime or until you're having a snack, and, you know, it's packed full of protein. If that's not your thing, a 3-egg scramble on toast. So 3 eggs scrambled up in a pan or in the microwave, 1 piece of whole grain toast, little spread of butter on there. We're looking at 25 grams of protein. Okay, so really boosting those breakfast protein amounts. If you're someone who likes a slice of toast for breakfast, we might want to supplement that with a banana and a bit of Greek yogurt. Maybe put a squeeze of honey in the Greek yogurt if that's your thing. And that would put us up to 22 grams of protein. So already all of these breakfasts are around triple the protein amount that we saw when we did the research last year in people with MD for breakfast. So we're really boosting that protein. And if you're someone who really struggles at breakfast time, you're not necessarily hungry and you prefer to just have like something a bit later on, or perhaps just sip at something throughout the morning, then things like smoothies can be a really great way to get protein in as well. So handful of frozen berries, couple of spoonfuls of Greek yogurt, a few porridge oats, you know, for those carbohydrates for that energy, and a bit of honey for some sweetness, and we've got 21 grams of protein. Okay, so it is a lot easier than people think to get protein in at breakfast time. I think it's an area that's very missed. You know, you don't have to be eating a chicken breast for breakfast or half a pint of cottage cheese to get your protein in. You can do it, and it can be done in a tasty way. So the other area where people were lacking in protein is snacks, and I think snack options are just as great for protein-based snacks. I know that I fall foul for this, of reaching for a couple of chocolate digestive biscuits or, you know, things like that. But there are really good options for high protein-based snacks. So things like Baby Bell Lights, they have 5 grams of protein in each. Really easy to just pop out of the fridge and have on the go. Boiled eggs are a good one. Not my personal favourite to have on the go, you know, but again, a really great snack if you're at home or out and about. Yogurt pouches, these are really common in supermarkets now. They do so many different flavours, like chocolate, berry flavours, all sorts of different ones, full of protein and a great snack, and they'll also help keep you nice and full. Beef jerky, if that's your thing. We had quite a few people at the NMC really start to enjoy beef jerky. I've only eaten it a couple of times, but we had really good feedback from people enjoying that. Cottage cheese, again, you can put that on some bread or a cracker or things like that, and that's a really good protein boost. And then something that's really common at the moment is like protein bars that look like chocolate bars and things like that, which if you're out and about and you're on the go and you need a snack that's full of protein, they're a really, really great choice. So let's move on to portion control. So as we become more sedentary and we participate in less physical activity, we might be spending more time sat down and things like that. we need to make sure that we're balancing our energy in and energy out. Okay, so we want to make sure that the energy that we're expending on a day-to-day basis is matched with the food we put in our bodies. We want to make sure we're not under consuming, because we want to make sure we're giving our muscles and our bones enough energy to function on a day-to-day basis. But we also want to make sure we're not going over the top on energy, all right, and putting extra stress on our joints and our muscles. So we really need to make sure we're matching our portions to the needs of our bodies and our activity levels. And we might need to adjust our portions on a day-to-day basis. So if you've been down to the MDSC and you've done a really intense session with one of the physios, all right, you might need to just up our portions just a little bit to account for all that activity that we've been up to. Or if you've had a particularly busy day getting in and out of the car a few times or things like that, and you feel a bit wiped, a bit fatigued, we might need a bit more energy on those kind of days too. But if we've had a slightly more quieter day, we've been at home a little bit more, we might just need to it's not the word, reduce our portion size slightly. And that might happen on a meal-to-meal basis, a day-to-day basis, or a week-to-week basis. This is really individualized to you guys. But what we want to make sure that we're prioritizing is the foods that are going to help our bodies perform optimally and also satisfy us. Me and Izzy are massive advocates for the 80-20 style of life, where 80% of what you put in your body needs to be for making your body perform optimally. Doesn't mean it can't taste good, all right? But that 20%, those are those little fun treats, glass of wine, slice of cake, handful of biscuits. All right, we need that enjoyment from our food to make sure we stick to it. All right, and that all comes under this bracket of portion control. We actually need to enjoy the foods we eat to be able to stick to a well-balanced and nutritious diet. So if we take one of my favourite teas into account, which is like a chicken breast or a steak with some chips, onion rings, broccoli. This is like a proper freezer dive tea for me when I need something quick. If we look at how we might control that portion for on a slightly less busy day, so we still want to make sure we're getting our protein in, which is what comes from our chicken or our steak or our salmon or our tofu. So we want to make sure we've got a good portion of that. But instead, because we've done a bit less activity, we might just want to reduce the amount of carbohydrates we're consuming. So instead of going for like takeaway style chips, we might go for some like naked McCain style chips, but a slightly smaller portion. But to make sure we're still staying full, we're going to have a nice big portion of veg. So things like broccoli, peas, kale, cabbage, those kind of things that are going to help keep us full. All right, but they're not necessarily going to mean that we're over consuming on energy. Another one of my favourite teas is spaghetti bolognese. I feel like this picture doesn't really depict it very well because it is meatballs, but this spaghetti bolognese is one of my favourites. So if you were at a restaurant, you might have it where it's like a really big bowl of pasta, loads of meat sauce, like a garlic bread on the side, which is okay when we're, having a treat and we're out and about, but on a weekly basis, if we're having that at home and we're trying to be aware of how much we're putting into our bodies, we might just reduce that size portion of pasta, still making sure we're having plenty of that meat sauce, nice lean protein, 5% fat mince, that kind of thing. We can still have a bit of that garlic bread on the side, all right? Everyone enjoys a little bit of garlic bread, especially where me and Izzy are from. And then we might supplement that with a bowl of things like salad or veg on the side to help keep us fuller for longer. So we're still getting to enjoy a simple meal like spaghetti bolognese, but we're just being a little bit more aware of the component parts of it to make sure that it's fitting in with optimizing what we're eating.
And sort of next we're going to be moving a bit on to priority eating. So with a neuromuscular condition, you can find cooking or preparing meals to be more tiring or sometimes a bit more difficult. And these are just some tips and tricks on what to do if you feel sort of overwhelmed with making a whole meal. Some strategies to help with this: definitely easy to prepare foods. Like Meg said, there's loads of things out there these days, like those yogurt pouches are really easy for on the go and just as an easy grab and go snack. There's loads of pre-chopped veg, micro microwave rice and grains, tinned lentils, beans, pre-cooked meats, things like that. Things that you can just grab, put on the plate, add some veg and maybe some crackers or some microwave rice, and then you've got yourself a nice balanced meal as well. You can also get some adaptive kitchen tools, so lightweight pans, jar openers. I've had an electric can opener before, and it was, I would say, life-changing. I really enjoyed using that. And there's also mini choppers and things that can make those, like chopping veg, a lot easier for you. And then on the days that you might have a bit more energy, you might be feeling extra motivated. So you might be making a spaghetti bolognese, so one of Meg's favourites. You can batch cook that, maybe freeze a few portions. So then the days that you don't feel as strong, or if you just think, oh, can't be bothered, you can just bang that in the microwave, and then you've got yourself a nice, quick and healthy meal as well. And then another thing is just to ask for help when you need it, because family and friends and carers can support you with whether that's making a shopping list, thinking about what to buy, going shopping, or prepping as well, because I know that cooking can also be an enjoyable activity. So doing it with your family and friends around you can always be enjoyable as well. And then managing fatigue and appetite changes. I know a lot of us sometimes might feel hungry a lot one day or not so hungry on the other days, but it is important on those days where we don't feel so hungry that we're still making the right choices and fueling in the right way. So some ways that you can do this, maybe have smaller, more frequent meals. This doesn't mean grazing all day, but it does mean sort of balancing out those sort of healthy balanced snacks with maybe some small meals. Again, keeping snacks on hand. So there's some examples on that previous slide of maybe just chucking a few Baby Bells in your lunchbox, or just taking a quick cereal bar out with you. I know that those yogurt pouches can be out of the fridge for a few hours, so I think they'll be all right on the go. And then again, simple meals, so they don't have to be culinary delights. Sort of simple soups and sandwiches, things like that. And then also make sure we're prioritizing those proteins and fruits and veg as well, making sure that our plates are looking nice and colourful, or there's at least 1 or 2 portions of fruit and veg in our main meals. And then also well-spaced meal timing. So when you think about making a meal, it doesn't have to be a traditional meal or a snack. Something that Meg sort of introduced me to is the concept of fridge tapas, which is always great as well. So if you just open the fridge, see a bit of cottage cheese, maybe some carrot sticks, you've got some rice cakes in the cupboard that are open, throwing those all together on a plate, and making sure that you think, oh, I've got my protein there, oh, I've got my carbs there, and I've got that veg as well. So finding what works for you is really important, as everybody is different.
Nice. So if we move on to talk a bit more about nutrition specific for the winter time now. So winter nutrition isn't massively different from the rest of the year round, but we do need to shift that focus a little bit more onto supporting the immune system, supporting our energy levels, and also our mental health and our mood during the colder months. So the colder weather and the less sunlight, I'm not sure about you guys, but it does put a bit of a dampener on things when it's chucking it down, or when it was really snowy and icy the other week, all right? But it does also affect our body in other ways that aren't just mental, okay? And specific nutrients can really help us stay resilient and energized in the winter time. So we're going to quickly go through a few things now about energy needs, hydration, immune support, and things like that. So the one thing we need to make sure that we're doing in the winter is having enough energy. So when it's colder outside, this increases our body's energy requirements, because we need to maintain our body heat. And this can lead to a higher appetite, okay? And also when we're spending a lot more time indoors, we can be slightly more bored, and boredom can lead us to wanting to reach into the cupboard a little bit more for a few extra snacks. So it's something we need to be aware of. We do need a little bit more energy in the winter to help our body keep warm, and again, with that muscle and bone recovery, but we also need to make sure that we're well balanced as well. The shorter days in the winter time, obviously we are getting longer and longer by the day now, but the reduced sunlight exposure, these shorter winter days, it can disrupt the body's natural sleep-wake cycle. So our body produces a hormone called melatonin, and that regulates our sleep. And when it's dark, as much as it is at the minute, it can really disrupt our routine. So what might we change in the winter time and these darker months to make sure that we're still, got lots of energy that's going to help us on a day-to-day basis? So when you can, get outside. Even if it doesn't look sunny outside and it might be a bit chilly, put lots of layers on, wrap up, and try and spend some time outdoors, all right? Spending that time outside, especially in the morning time, can boost our serotonin and it can help regulate our melatonin, which can help us sleep better at night time, okay? I know that there's a lot of other factors that can influence our sleep, but if that can make our sleep 1 or 2% better, to me, that's a big achievement. We can stay active, so whether that's however you do physical activity, so that's whether you're at the MDSC on one of the arm crank bikes, or you're taking part in an exercise class, or you're just going outside, or things like that. We need to make sure that we're staying active. It helps to boost our circulation, our endorphins, and it also helps with that maintenance of our energy levels, okay? But we've got to make sure it's balanced. So in the wintertime, we need to focus on what we call complex carbohydrates. So these are carbohydrates that release slowly throughout the day so we don't get those big spikes of energy and then big drops, because that's not going to help with our mood either. Okay, so we want things like oats, rice, pulses, legumes, bananas, things like that. Those are the kind of carbohydrates we really want to focus on to make sure that we've got that maintenance of energy throughout the day. We also really want to focus on lean proteins, so things like chicken, 5% fat mince, whether that's beef, pork, turkey, things like that, which are also full of healthy fats, and that's going to help keep us full, and it's going to make sure it's looking after our muscles as well.
Yeah, so something else that's essential during winter, even though people often associate dehydration more with summer, hydration is really important and crucial for our winter nutrition. So first of all, we can have a lot of dry winter air and dehydration. So we know that the cold air has lower humidity, which can dry out our breathing system and our skin as well. So the body loses moisture through the breath. So when you go outside, particularly a few weeks ago, and you breathe out and you can see your breath in the air, that sort of evaporation, and also from the skin, leading to dehydration and water loss, even without noticeable sort of sweating that we might feel a bit more in the summer. As well, in the colder weather, we can have sort of lower thirst sensation. So the body reduces that response, so you may not feel as thirsty as you do in the warmer months, which can lead to insufficient water intake, making conscious hydration really vital to maintain that fluid balance. It can also help us with our immune function again, which is really important in the winter. Proper hydration supports the immune system, so it can help carry these white blood cells that help us fight infection and things like that. And it can sometimes, as something that people say about hydration as well, is that it can help flush out those toxins, keep mucous membranes moist, making them work harder to sort of combat those infections and things. It can also help us with temperature regulation, so helping us regulate our body temperature even in these cold conditions. And it can also help support our energy levels and metabolism, because dehydration can lead to fatigue as well, and reduce stamina, which is really important, especially if you're engaging in those outdoor activities in the winter. And it can help us again with our digestive health. Winter often comes with heavier, more comforting foods, and that can put a strain on our digestion. So proper hydration can help us maintain a healthy digestion, and prevent any sort of gastrointestinal issues like constipation and things like that. And some ways that you can sort of make sure you're staying hydrated is with warm beverages and soup. So when you're having soup, these things, the liquid does hydrate you. The same with sort of fruit teas, water with lemon, and different broth-based soups. Also monitoring your caffeine intake. That can also help with your sleep cycle as well. And if you are drinking coffee, make sure you're drinking a lot of water alongside that as well. And something else is hydrating fruits and vegetables. So you can get a lot of water from oranges and apples and pears, and then also in winter veg that's in season at the minute. So cauliflower, cabbage, and carrots that are quite in abundance in winter and contain a lot of water and fiber, which can help us with our hydration and digestion as well.
So something that Izzy touched on then was our immune system, and it's a word that gets floated around a lot in the wintertime, and it's something that we need to be, hyper aware of. We want to try and reduce the risk of colds, flus, other respiratory illnesses, other tummy bugs and bits and bobs that go around. Okay, and nutrition is really, really important and tied into that. Okay, so we can boost our immunity through food with foods that are high in certain vitamins and minerals. So things like vitamin C, vitamin A, zinc, which is in things like citrus fruits, leafy greens, nuts and seeds. But something that's also really important in the wintertime is our gut health. So gut health is a very popular topic at the minute, but making sure that our gut is healthy is really important for our immune system, as they're really closely connected. So if your gut's in a bad place, it can sometimes compromise our immune system. And there are quite a few foods that can help promote good gut health. So things like yogurts, stuff that's full of probiotics, or fermented foods. So things like kimchi, kombucha, sauerkraut, things that are pickled, kefir, yogurts. These are all really great foods that can help, boost our gut health, okay, and then in turn help with our immune system, okay. And we also need to make sure that we've got those carbohydrates and those proteins to give our immune system the energy it needs to support our body. So I touched there on vitamins and minerals, and supplements of vitamins and minerals is something that I and Izzy get asked about quite often. So what tablets should I take? Should I take these tablets? Should I take these ones? And to be honest, the best way to get all your vitamins and minerals in is a food first approach. So we always want to focus on a well-balanced, varied diet. And my best advice to do that is to eat the rainbow. The more colours that you're eating of fruit and veg, the more vitamins and minerals that you're getting in. So you don't need to worry about taking lots of tablets or multivitamins or things like that. If you're eating lots of colours and making sure that your plate's nice and colourful, you're going to get in lots of vitamins and minerals. Obviously, if your GP or your consultant has found out that you're deficient in one of these and prescribes you that, then that's a different story. But when it comes to looking at supplements yourself, the best way to get all your vitamins and minerals in is a food first approach. Okay. Frozen options are great to do this, especially in the wintertime, because some things like berries and fruit aren't necessarily in season now, but you can get these in the freezer section and they're still full of all the vitamins and minerals, all those good nutrients. Okay. There's one exception to this rule, which is vitamin D. So vitamin D comes from sunlight, and 95% of people in the UK, regardless of whether you've got a chronic condition or not, are deficient in vitamin D. That's me and Izzy included, because we forget to take our vitamin D supplements. But the best way to get vitamin D is from sunlight. If you were to try and get it from food, daily you would need to consume 9 full heads of cauliflower or 37 eggs, which I'm not sure about any of you guys, but that sounds like a rubbish diet to me. Doesn't sound like one I'm going to enjoy. So if you were thinking about supplements and what to take, vitamin D is the only exception to that. You can get it in like what look like jelly babies. You can get it in oils, sprays, tablets. You can get it in tablets that you only have to take once a week or once a month. And it's something that you can get on prescription from your GP. Okay. If you're looking at vitamin D supplements and you want any further advice or advice around supplements, mine and Izzy's emails will be at the end of this, or you can get them off the guys at the MDSC, and we'd be happy to talk to people on an individualized basis about supplements. But if you want one piece of advice about them, food first, okay? Eat the rainbow. I won't touch too much on this, just because I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for you guys to ask us some questions. But this is just about food sources in the winter. And we will circulate these slides so you guys can read this information. But this is just about the fact that winter can often limit the availability of certain fresh fruits and vegetables, but there's still plenty of nutrient-rich foods that are perfect for the wintertime. So root vegetables, they're a really great way to get in your vitamins and your minerals. And there's lots of different ones to go at: parsnips, coloured carrots, sweet potatoes, cauliflowers, things like that. Nuts and seeds are great. So they're full of really rich in vitamins and minerals. We've got to be careful with the portions that we're consuming, but a little sprinkle of seeds on your porridge or on your toast or things like that, really good for fibre, which is going to help regulate our stomach, and it's also really good for helping us stay full. The same with whole grains, so oats, quinoa, barley, things like that. They're full of fiber, full of whole grains. Citrus, packed full of vitamins, all right? The brighter the citrus, the better, all right? Grapefruits, limes, lemons, all of that fun stuff. Blood oranges, get them in your system, all right? They're full of vitamins and minerals. And then those fermented and probiotic foods I touched on before. Okay.
Yeah, and then just looking at sort of winter cooking, so different cooking methods. The slow cooker, I know when I was younger, I'd come home from school and see the slow cooker out on the side. Personally, that would really excite me. It's really easy to just chuck in some chicken, some vegetables, a bit of stock, and then you've got yourself a nice sort of hearty meal as well. And the same with tray bakes, so you can put in that seasonal veg, so potatoes, carrots, maybe some parsnips, and then you can put your protein on top with a bit of seasoning, and you've got a nice healthy meal ready for you in around 30 minutes. And as well, using the microwave, this isn't a bad thing. I know a lot of people think that microwave meals can be bad for you, but we want to, if you are going to opt for ready meals or microwave meals, there are some healthy options out there. We just want to make sure that the sort of salt and saturated fat intake is low, and sort of the less amount of ingredients on the back of the packet is always the best. And then with the sort of where should I get my fruit and veg from, because I know that frozen veg and frozen fruit can be a lot cheaper than fresh veg. There is absolutely no difference in the nutrient content because they're flash frozen. So if you just have a quick bag of sort of frozen sweet corn and broccoli, put that in the microwave for a few minutes, it's just the same as if you were to boil some sweet corn and some fresh broccoli. And the same for frozen fruit as well, which is always great for smoothies because it can keep them nice and cold and sort of make them into that nice sort of fruity smooth texture when we're making our smoothies as well.
So that's been a little bit of a whistle-stop tour on some of the topics in nutrition, and me and Izzy could talk for hours or if not days on all the different components of nutrition, but we really want to work with you guys on a more individualized basis. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to offer for people at the MDSC who might not know us yet or might not have met us yet. So we're nutritionists, okay? So we're not dietitians. We're not there to prescribe you things. We're there to provide individualized nutrition advice and support that's specific to you, your condition and your lifestyle. So me and Izzy have worked really hard with lots of people with muscular dystrophy to understand the condition and to understand the science behind it and what foods are really great for each different condition. So not just muscular dystrophy as a whole, but each different specific subtype. So we want to make sure that everyone feels like they've got nice individualized support. We can also help bust myths and make sense of things you see online. So there's a lot of misinformation around nutrition online. At the moment, nutrition's a very hot topic, and we want to make sure that you guys have somewhere to come to answer your questions about what's true, what's not true. Should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? We're also here to help give you guys the tools to improve your knowledge around diet and nutrition so that you can, support other people or make sure that you're making those choices yourself that are, going to help, improve your quality of life and things like that. And we're also here to help you understand what research is currently being done. So you might see on pages like DMD or SMA UK and things like that they publish research papers that are done in like mice, or they're talking about genes or some therapy that they're developing and you don't really understand it, but you want to know what it means to you. And that's what we're here for as well. We're to help you guys understand what's currently being done. And as much as we're there to help you understand what's being done, we really want your input as well on topics and on what research you guys would love to see done. Some of the best research me and Izzy have been involved in is stuff that's been led by people in the community, or, like things like this that we've led come from, questions that people have asked or topics people have wanted raising. So we really want to support you guys as much as possible with the knowledge that we have. And I'm sure along the way, you'll teach us a lot of things as well. But just a quick promo whilst we're here as well, that me and Izzy are also actively doing some research at the minute. So I'll let you explain yours.
Yeah, so I've got a study coming up starting sort of in the next few months where I'm looking at the response to protein intake in adults with Becker muscular dystrophy. So in some recent research that I did specifically in Becker, I found that their nutrition was looking more towards the fact that they weren't consuming enough protein for their condition. So whilst they were meeting the daily guidelines, they still weren't showing that improved quality of life that we could see. So my study is going to involve drinking a protein drink and then drinking in and then breathing into a straw every half an hour. Really easy. You can go on your phone, read a book whilst you're doing it, and then just filling out some food diaries as well, because it's going to help give us an understanding of muscle health and diet in Becker muscular dystrophy, and see how nutrition can improve your well-being and quality of life as well.
So very similar to Izzy's, our research is always centered around improving like quality of life, muscle strength, function for people. Again, we're not here looking for cures. There's plenty of people out there that are, and big respect to them, but we want to be helping people in the here and now. So I'm doing some research specifically in FSHD type 1. And this is kindly sponsored by My Protein, which is a really big supplement company, if any of you guys have ever heard of it, which is really exciting that they want to get involved in MD research. And essentially what you'll do, you'll come in, see me in the lab, we'll have a chat, we'll go through some things, probably make you about 6 cups of tea, and we'll do some health and muscle tests, and then I'll send you away with a supplement for 16 weeks, and we'll have regular catch-ups online about how you're finding it and things like that. And then you'll come in at the end of the time after you've taken this supplement for 16 weeks, and we'll redo all those tests and have a chat. And it's a really great way to learn about muscle health and function and your diet, and also help advance therapies for people with FSHD. Although we're only doing research in Becker and FSHD at the minute, there'll be plenty of opportunities in the future for other conditions as well. But we unfortunately we're only a team of 3 at the minute, so we got to start somewhere, and this is where we're starting out. But
watch this space.
Yeah, watch this space. But we're it's very different being involved in research with us guys than it might be in traditional clinic based research. We very much take a person-centered approach. You know, you're not a number on a spreadsheet or a number in a clinical trial. It's very much about you as a person, and how you can add to our research, not just being a number or anything like that.
And we get as much out of it as you guys do as well. And something that obviously we mentioned at the start was working at the NMC previously. We got involved there, and they thought, oh, they're just here for some research projects, but it ended up with us going on fishing trips with them and going to Christmas markets and
supporting at lots of different events,
kind of things as
yeah.
well.
So we're hoping to be able to get involved and become professional brew makers down at the MDSC as well.
Definitely.
But we talked for quite a while actually, but we'll take like 10 minutes of questions. Is that okay? And then, but if any of you guys have any more questions after this section, or you want to hear more about what we do, or maybe look at some individualized nutrition advice, we'll share all of our emails at the end. And don't ever hesitate to ask a question, because I can guarantee no question's a silly question. Someone else will be thinking about it somewhere as well. But if we pass back over to Helen and she can manage who asks what, yeah.
Super. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Izzy. That was brilliant, really informative. Thank you so much. I feel very lucky that we're working with you, and some really exciting stuff coming up. Just before it kind of go into any questions, are you still spending some time in our Coventry Centre and at Movewell? So in terms of locations for people want to, obviously they can contact you through email and stuff, but so people
and we're available online whenever.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, I'll jump into the chat first. Somebody has asked a question. Do you have a view on use of whey protein powders?
Yeah, so they can be really useful. Again, we're always pushing that food first approach, but we understand that that can become difficult, especially if we have issues with chewing and swallowing and things like that. So whey protein powders, obviously made up into drinks, can be a really great way to boost that protein. There's some really great ones out there, and they come in a million different flavors. But if you're looking at which ones to buy, you always want to look for ones that are what we call informed sport tested. So that it'll say on the website or on the back of the packet if it's informed sport tested. And that just means there's no hidden nasties in there, basically. We want to make sure that even if we are having to become slightly more reliant on supplements, that we're still making sure we're choosing the best options, and that's how we know that they're the best options. But places like My Protein, bulk powders, applied nutrition, they're really great places to start having a look if that's something that you're interested in. But again, always pushing that food first approach where we can.
Brilliant, thank you.